All right, what is up, guys? VV back with another video. That's right. And in today's video, we're gonna be checking out a pretty cool deck. Yeah, you see it on the screen right here. Purple Black Z or Zephyr. This is a deck that a lot of people wanted to make work back in OP02, and I think it had some probably like local success, but nothing crazy. Because especially back then, it's just there were no dual color leaders winning back in OP01, OP02 until they got enough support, right? Probably in other than Law, other than Red Green Law, which had such a broken mechanic, getting like 16, 17 Dawn turns every single turn while generating card advantage along the way. So yeah, that one that was able to compete, but Purple Black Law not so much. It just because what ended up being the issue is Zoro kind of acted as a gatekeeper for all of these dual colored leaders. So if you could not match his tempo, like Red Green Law could, or his card advantage, or whatever, you were just going to get run over. Like 4 life just did not give you enough time to set up. Now some people might not agree on that, but I've talked about it ad nauseum at this point. You know, in all kinds of different videos of mine in the past, just saying how detrimental it was losing 1 life. Like going down to 4 life versus 5 life. There has to be something to compensate. And, you know, yellow started having the ability to gain life, where it's like, okay, well, now that's going to give me an extra turn to set up and blah, 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 so on and so forth. But for other decks, it's got to be through card advantage, got to be through other means. Like Blue-Black Sakazuki, for example. It just has the most broken removal ever printed, you know, as far as the game's history goes, right? It can just remove every card every turn. You know, and it can cycle a card every turn. It has this huge built-in system. But Purple Black Z just did not quite have that. And we're going to look at the deck today. This is over in the East, so this is OP06. But I don't think it gets a ton of help from there. I think someone just kind of decided, I'm going to play it, but it did get some tools, and we'll go over it. Okay, so let me read this leader effect real quick for those who don't remember what it does, or new players that have never even seen this leader. It's not a new leader. It's been around for a while. It kind of got left behind. So real quick, this is a 5,000 power, 4 life leader, standard dual color stats. When attacking, Dawn -4. So remember, returning 4 Dawn cards to your Dawn deck. KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. Then this leader gains plus 1,000 power during his turn. And remember, it's when you're attacking. So when you turn the card sideways, attack, return 4 Dawn, go plus 1,000 power, and KO one of their characters that costs 3 or less. Well, that's actually very good, right? That's actually a very good effect. But back in this point of the game in OP02, there weren't a lot of ways to compensate for that Dawn loss. So this was basically just a vanilla leader until you got down this 10-drop Kuzan, where you could basically 2-for-1 your opponent in 1 turn, maybe even 3-for-1 them if you could attack into something with Zephyr. Because then it would be, okay, Kuzan comes into play, KO a 5 or less, and then, you know, Z comes in, does his win attacking, KOs an 8 or less because of everything we just said. So Kuzan, they came out in the same set, but again, it just wasn't quite enough to put this deck into the meta, because the effect was incredible, but having only 4 life, it just could not survive against the faster decks out at the time, which back then was Zoro and Red Green Law. So, okay, so let's go ahead and run through this deck list, and we'll talk about it. Talk about the cards and some of the choices and some of the additions it got from OP06 that maybe can give it a chance now, right? And even in OP05. Okay, so Zephyr, we just talked about this. Kuzan, so he's running 4 Kuzans, 4 Borsalinos. Got to put the glasses back on. 3 Garps. That's interesting. This is the 5-cost Garp that taps down, KOs a 4 or less by trashing a card. 4 Surus, 2 Ishos, very nice. 3 Khalifas, 4 Sabos, 4 one-legged toy soldier, 2 Rob Lucci. That card's just great, right? It just has so much utility. And it's just good at slowing down your opponent. It's not even the utility aspect of it. It's a 4-cost 6K, right on curve, and deals with 2 threats against the fast decks, which was Z's biggest problem. I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll come back to it. 3 Gecko Moria. I'm telling you guys, this card, we'll talk more about it. 4 Jack. That's really interesting to me. 2 Queen, 4 Eustace Captain Kidd, 3 Kamazo, and 4 Shiki. Okay, so a lot of these cards have been around, right? Like this entire top part has been around for quite some time. The Sabo being like the newest card in this pack at OP04. Khalifa was OP03. Everything else was OP03, including Isho. 2K counters we've had for a while. This is a good Dawn reduction one, but you could just run Tashigi here for, you know, it costs one more, but it can Dawn -2. You guys know what Tashigi does. The new cards that we got to talk about, first of all, is obviously Gecko and Moria, but we're going to talk about this one last. This card came out in OP05, Eustace Captain Kidd, 5 cost 6K, 1K counter blocker. Okay, and your turn, once per turn, when a Dawn card from your field is returned to your Dawn deck, add a Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set as active. This does basically 3 things that we needed, you know, for this slot in the deck. A 5 cost 6K blocker has the 1K counter. And like I said, it's a blocker, so it's going to help us slow down our opponent, and it will also kind of piggyback off the play before. It's probably going to be Borsellino unless we're on the play, right, where we go 1 3 5. But if we're on the even curve, 2 4 6, turn 2 Borsellino. But now we can play something on curve on turn 3 other than Queen. Queen was good, by the way. Queen, it's not like Queen's a bad card, but you see even he runs it as a 2 of in this person. And this is a first place list, by the way. I probably forgot to mention that. But the date was January 5th. So just like a week ago, at the time of me recording this video, I think not even, because I think today's the, let me see, I got my phone right here. Today's the 11th. Yeah, so today is January 11th at the time of me recording this. And yeah, this is a 4-0 list. You know, just a little local, I'm sure. It says host is Starbucks, but it went 4-0 at a local. It's worth talking about, you know. So again, where were we? It's not that Queen was bad. Queen's very solid, but going backwards in Dawn is so brutal. It's so brutal no matter what. Now, they are also adding this card from OP06. This is a 4 cost 5K, 2K counter. I guess I should have said spoiler warning, guys, but I don't know. You know, so a lot of this stuff is already accessible where you can see it. But this card has, on your turn, once per turn, when you return Dawn cards on your field to your Dawn deck, KO up to one of your opponent's characters of cost 2 or less. Very nice, but at the end of the day, it's just a nice 2K counter, right? Like that's all fine and dandy, right? So again, whenever you return a Dawn card, and this is on your turn, you can KO up to one of your opponent's characters that cost 2 or less. Okay, well, that's very easy to do with a card like Queen. Very easy to do even with, well, that's probably actually the main one. What about this guy? So this is another OP06 card, 2 cost, 1,000 power, 1,000 counter blocker. If your board has 8 or more Dawn cards, draw 1 card and then trash 1 card from your hand. So just a nice 2 cost 1K blocker that has a 1K counter and has the potential to cycle you a card. But just awesome stuff. But yeah, back to this card. Kamazo, this is going to allow you to act like basically a early, or not early, how do I say this? Like with your leader's effect, you can KO a 3 or less, right? With his effect, you can KO a 2 or less. So with your Z, this is popping 2, just like your Rob Lucci is. Now, early in the game, this is not great, and notice he's only running 3 of these. That makes sense to me because you don't want to just start using your leader's effect early in the game. Even if you have down a Eustace Captain Kidd, it's just not smart. It's just not a good idea because you'll never be able to ramp into your late game like Kuzan or now even Gecko Moria. It's just a rough call. But remember, this is a Dawn -4 ability when attacking baked into the leader. So long story short is this. Early in the game, you want to survive by dropping down your Borsellinos, dropping down your Sabos, your Queens, and your Eustace Kidds. These are all blockers. Every card I just said is a blocker. Anytime you can use your Rob Lucci early, you probably should against the rush decks. But I think ultimately, Rob Lucci and this guy Kamazo here, or Kamazu, I don't know how to say his name, sorry guys. These cards are actually meant for later in the game when you get down Kuzan. Because when you get Kuzan down, that's kind of all she wrote, right? Now your Rob Lucci is hitting a 7 and a 6. Your Kamazo guy here is hitting a 7, and your leader's effect is hitting an 8. And that's how you would activate this card, right? Unless you have a Queen in hand. And who knows, guys? Maybe there's another card that can be added to this deck to make it better to be able to trigger this effect more often. And the good news, here's the nice thing about this card. This card in particular, it's a 2K counter, right? Okay, so 2K counter out a turn, some turn early in the game, plop down Kuzan on turn 5 to KO 2 characters with him and Z. And now think about that. Think about it for 1 second. If you go 10 Dawn, play down Kuzan, and then Dawn -4 on Z, what happens? You go down to 6 Dawn, right? You KO 2 characters, an 8 cost and a 5 cost. That's huge. But it's not just that. You go down to 4 Dawn, which that sucks, but you're going up to 2 Dawn the next turn. You're going to be back at 8. Well, guess what? That's when you play it on Gecko Moria. And you'll be able to get back your 2K counter here and go from there if needed. Because then it just gets out of control, right? Then you can get this guy back, by the way, or Rob Lucci. Either one's going to be fine. But this card in particular, you can easily get to your trash by 2K countering out of early attacks. And he comes into play. He's a 4-cost 5K. That's solid. We'll take that every time. And then your turn, once per turn, then you'll be able to use your leader's effect to, you know, when attacking, you're going to go Dawn -4 again, right? But that's going to allow you to KO another 8. And then play out that... or use the Kamazo, you know, trigger your turn effect once per turn to KO a 7. If you still have, again, this is if you have down the Kuzan. And if you don't, there are other options now as well. Like, for example, Isho, this is just a solid card. This allows you to use your leader's effect like 1 turn earlier if needed. Right? Because this will allow you to just play down, well, I guess not, maybe not 1 turn earlier. Well, excuse me. It'll allow you to play like your leader combo, like your Kuzan combo on the odd curve, right? Because you'll be able to go, okay, 9 Dawn, play out Isho, maybe trash 2 cards from their hand, maybe, you know, potentially attach a Dawn to it as the last Dawn. Now, when attacking, you can hit a, well, this only hits a -3, so 3 and 3, you'll be able to hit a 6 cost. You'll be able to hit a 6 cost on their side of the board and potentially swing for 6K into one of their other characters with your leader from his effect. So it's just another option. I don't think it's as good, by the way. Like, maybe this is a card they can cut in the future if you're trying to make the deck better. But the Kuzan, hands down, is just insane. Right? This synergy here with the leader was just always meant to be. It was just always very, very good. And it's kind of cool how, like, in both of these, by the way, like, for those who don't know, this is like a former Navy, and this is Neo Navy, which, I don't know, I kind of thought that was always cool. But at the same time, it also wasn't great with Searchers. You know, for Kuzan, you can never grab him with brand new because he's not Navy. He's former Navy, right, unfortunately. Okay, Jack, for those who don't know, this is a 3-cost 4K, 1K counter. He has an on-play. You may trash 1 card from your hand, reveal 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck, and set it as active. This is very nice, actually. Yeah, this is very nice for a multitude of reasons, because this will let you ramp early, and then he's just a nice 1K counter later in the game. Because you do want to, like, this helps you fix your odd curve. If you had to go first, where it's like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, well, you want to be able to play Kuzan right on turn 5. Well, this card fixes that. This card really helps that. Okay, what else? So for the Gecko Moria, I talk about this card all the time, but I do have to mention that this will also, you know, the primary targets you're probably going to go for realistically is, number 1 is this guy. Like, this guy in the deck is extremely good, and if you have Kuzan down, then Rob Lucci. But there's only 2 Rob Lucci, so the chances of you having it in your trash might not be, it's kind of slim, actually. So it's not a great chance. And like I said, maybe at some point you actually drop out the 2 Ishos for 2 more Rob Lucci's. I don't know. It's something, you guys tell me what y'all think in the comment section below. I always want to hear what y'all have to say. But the big targets to go for Gecko Moria, I think, is this guy here, Kamazo, as long as you have down the Kuzan. Like I said, Rob Lucci's great if you get it. Otherwise, this card is just as good, guys. It's maybe it's not just as good, but it's pretty much just as good, because this is going to let you pop a 7 cost with what's his name down, with Kuzan down, whenever you swing in with this to KO a character. You establish the 5K body, and then for the 2-cost characters, it would be nice if you had better 2-cost options. Like, yes, this is a blocker that could potentially draw you a card, but realistically, well, I don't know. I guess this would work, because the turn you're playing Kuzan, you'll obviously have, or not Kuzan, excuse me. The turn you're playing Gecko Moria, you'll obviously have 8 Dawn, right? Like, you just simply have to have 8 Dawn. So I guess this is a good card, and you could even have this card come into play untapped or set as active, as opposed to this card. It really doesn't matter. It's up to you. If you need the blocker is what I'm saying. That is nice utility. And the other option is grabbing back a 1-legged toy soldier, because remember, this card can be active or rested and still uses activate main, trash his character effect for Dawn -3. And again, the dream is always to be able to have down Kuzan and then basically ramp that into Gecko Moria. So it's like turn 5, play down Kuzan, turn 6, Gecko Moria. The game is probably over at that point. The game is probably yours if you were able to stabilize right there. Because remember, you're filling the entire early game with Borsalinos, Sabos, Queen, Captain Kidd, just some really, really good blockers. I'm curious as to, like, I'm curious about the Garp here. I'm not gonna lie. I don't quite understand Garp in this list in particular. You guys tell me if I missed something in the comment section below. But this is one of those cards where it's like you can't cheat this in with Gecko Moria, right? Because you can only hit a 4 or a 2. And for your 5-drop, you already have the 4 Sabos, the 2 Queens, and the 4 Eustace Kids. Again, who knows? Maybe this is something we can revise and make better. Maybe this could be another effect here. You never know, right? But yeah, I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. What do y'all think about this list? What do y'all think about Z? Is Z a deck that, as sets come out, more and more, you know, sets come out, does this leader get closer and closer to the meta? Get closer and closer to being viable? Because you guys know, I can't even make a video nowadays without at least talking about Black Yellow Linlin. Obviously, as more and more sets come out, Black Yellow Linlin gets stronger and stronger. Sorry guys, I'm like struggling today. But what else happens? By default, if Linlin gets stronger, Black Yellow Linlin, then so does Katakuri. If it's a yellow card there to make Linlin stronger, then Katakuri is going to get stronger. If a black card that comes out to make Linlin stronger, then it's going to make all the other black decks stronger, even like Sakazuki, potentially Rebecca, even Smoker. You know, even Smoker. It depends, right? It really just depends. So what do you guys think? Is this just... This was a smaller tournament, obviously. It says 4-0. It doesn't even say how many players were at it. But what do you guys think about the list? Does that have potential? Is this a leader that you wish you could play more often, you know, but there's like no justification for doing it? Hey, maybe in OP06 it'll finally be Z's chance to make some waves. But all right, guys, that's about it. I'm just rambling at this point. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you have not already. And yeah, that's it, guys. Until next time, peace.